Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Minding My Mental Health. I am Tanitria Williams, licensed professional counselor, and I am so excited that you are joining today. Today, our topic, we're talking about human resources and kind of how you navigate things within the workforce, because we understand that we spend a lot of time at work. And so we have conflict at work, we have confusion at work. We have a lot of different things. We want to learn more about HR, what they do, and how they can help us. But before we get into it, and before I even introduce my guest, you guys know what I want you to do. I want you to hashtag live and let us know where you are watching from. If you're watching us live, if you're not watching us live, you won't see the red box at the top. That's okay. Hashtag replay. And again, let us know where you're watching from. So we're really excited about you being here with us today. Share, tag your friends, tag your families, share this to groups you are a part of. I am about to do the same thing. I'm going to share it to a couple of groups because we want to get people on here. I think this is a topic that can help a lot of people. And we just want to get the word out. So give me one moment while I am sharing. All right. I'm going to share it to my story as well. And now I get to introduce my guest. I'm really excited to have her. Her name is Miss Jamala Thomas. I was going to say Thompson. I'm a Thompson. Thomas. And so excited. You are a human resource professional, but I want you to kind of introduce yourself as far as telling us what you do in that sphere of HR, how long you've been doing it. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Great. So I'm Jamala Thomas, as Tanithria mentioned. My current role, I'm the Vice President of People and Culture for a company, Priority One. We're a third-party logistics company here in downtown Little Rock and throughout the U.S. I've been in HR. I have to go by my kids' ages. So I've been in HR for close to 22, 23 years. I got my master's in HR in 2004. So it's been about that long. And I have done everything, starting from the bottom with the grunt work, then all the way to where I am now. So I am married. I have a wonderful husband, Mark Thomas. We've been married next month will be 16 years, and we have 5 amazing daughters ranging from 24, 22, 21, 15, and then I have one that turned 14-year-old today. We have a few dogs, and we're just like everyone else. We just try to juggle this thing called life and parenthood the best that we can.
Well, happy birthday to your daughter today. Happy birthday to her. What drew you into the profession? What was the appeal for you?
So it's a funny story, and I tell this when I'm speaking to employees. It was not something that I originally started out. My undergraduate degree was in agricultural economics, but I was in the National Guard, and we were deployed after 9/11. And after 9/11, during deployment, we were trying to get qualified to be a military police unit, which means everyone had to change their MOS. And for whatever reason, I could not pass my 9mm qualification. And I kind of got stuck in the office doing basic admin work. And a lot of that admin work started out with, just basic kind of HR administrative duties for, the soldiers that were in my unit. Mm-hmm. And then because we had the opportunity to go to school at no cost while we were on deployment, it was like, well, I can get a master's for free, or the Army will pay for it. So what can I do? What's the closest track? Oh, HR. Well, companies are going to always hire people. So it just kind of became, it really fell in my lap. Honestly, it was not something that I ever imagined.
Wow,
it was something that just literally, it was a godsend, actually, if you go back and look at it, because it's kind of my ministry. It's what I think.
I was going to say, you've been in it for a long time, though. So
I feel like it's really like wearing socks. It's so easy and effortless, but some days are harder.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So what's the role of HR for a company? Like, you hear people say, go talk to HR. What do you guys do?
Absolutely. And I want to kind of break the misconception. A lot of people think that HR is just responsible for like hiring and firing. That is true. But, we're the department that we're primarily responsible for the entire life cycle. So someone as an applicant all the way to a person that separates, whether they separate voluntarily because they have a better opportunity or, something that just doesn't work out with the company. The more we get into HR, it can get from just very basic admin level of making sure your documents and your personnel information is protected, and just making sure you get paid. That's like the most important thing, right?
Mhm.
Want to make sure you get paid, want to make sure that the benefits that companies offer, that we're able to manage and maintain and do that. But in my roles over the past 6, 7, 8 years have been a little bit more strategic. So I'm more on the business side, making sure that compensation analysis, or the main responsibility is compliance. So I have the primary responsibility for ensuring that the company I work for, that we operate in compliance with local, federal, and state laws. So I consider myself this is the closest thing to being an attorney that I would probably ever do, because that's my main role, is to make sure we're compliant. And then operating in the gray. The black and white is always there, but like operating in the gray and making sure in those gray areas that we're still compliant, that whatever our company culture and our mission is, that I'm a resource for leaders to incorporate that into their daily lives. But we are not, a lot of times we get the bad rap. We are not like the primary decision makers. Like, I hold a level of authority, but I report to the CEO, right? So I can't usurp him. We don't always have major authority decision making. We're kind of neutral. We're there as almost Switzerland of sorts, to make sure the business and the employee side marry together. And we protect the company's biggest asset. I mean, employees are the largest asset of any organization. So I'm here to protect that investment as well.
What would you say are probably the most common things that people bring to you all?
Whew,
or common themes, I guess.
I have a list. So the first one, and if I could say this and I get rocks thrown at me, the main thing we get is pay. It's pay. I don't feel like I'm being paid enough. This job doesn't pay enough. I need a raise. Can you give me why can't I get a raise? I don't have the authority to write a check, because if I did, I'd give myself one first, right? And a lot of times it's kind of redirecting folks back to like, gonna sound really rude, but you kind of knew this job paid X amount of dollars when you accepted the job. There is not a single company out there. I would tell people this: there's not a single company out there. We all feel like we do more than what we should, and we do that as humans. But there's not a single company out there that's gonna like make pay. They're gonna make it's a business. Pay is a cost, so they're gonna pay what's a fair market wage, and sometimes that does not incorporate paying employees what they feel they are worth, and that's really difficult. That's a hard conversation to have. The second one would probably be conflict. Conflict with
before we get to conflict, I have a question about the pay.
Yes.
Is there anything that human resources would say to someone as to ways to help them?
Oh, absolutely. This is what I tell people, and I'll use this platform. I hope everyone is listening to me. You know your worth before you accept a position. I can't tell you how many times I see this happen, and I'll try to like, are you sure? Are you sure? Like,
so you're trying to give them the heads up before they even say yes.
As much as I can, right? As much as I can, especially women of color, people of color. Not that companies intentionally try to underpay, but I think if you're running a business, there's cost and there's what you're bringing in, right? And we all try to minimize our cost and maximize our income, and so there's going to be a range, and most of us are going to try to get the most with
the least.
I hate saying that, but that is, I would be lying if I didn't. So I tell people, research. There's salary.com. Sometimes you may have to, pay for a little trial period. Like, go on the Department of Labor website, like, know the area, look at the area that you live in, compare it, get those skill sets that are in the job description. So you can have a myriad of skill sets that have no relation to what you're going to be doing every day.
Mm-hmm.
A company's more than likely not going to pay you on the potential of what you could do in the future. They're going to pay you on what you can do, what you're able to offer right now. So, like, know your worth and always ask. Even if they say no, always ask. And a lot of times people don't ask for more before. And once you're in there, it is extremely difficult to say, oh, oopsie, sorry.
Yeah.
I should have asked for more. So, and no business is, if I had a company, I would try to pay people fairly, but I still have a business to run, and
Right.
still have expenses and income. And so I think just people understanding what true business is, and understanding that any organization is for profit. And the way you make profit is to minimize your expenses. And unfortunately, sometimes that does happen.
So the first thing is to come in, research, know what you mentioned. You said Black women tend to make less for whatever reason. Are we not asking for it?
We don't ask.
Okay, so if you're watching this and you are a Black woman or a woman,
please ask. Please ask.
Ask for it.
And be reasonable. Be reasonable and ask with the confidence and the intention of, this is what I bring to the table. This is my skill set. This is what you say, like, you need. Obviously you are interested in me. I want to make sure that when I join this organization, I am paid. I don't like the people use the term worth, because we're worth more than what anybody can pay us, right? But this is what my skill set demands. This is what's, I like that, kind of like in the mid level, the median of what my skill set commands. And I would like to be paid so that I could be happy and productive and all of that. And I think it's the way you deliver it and have an honest, conversation. And most hiring managers, if they want you, they'll go back to the drawing board and say, hey, but to kind of ask outside of the range, that gets a little iffy. But like, know the range and don't be afraid to ask what's the range. A lot of times you read, don't bring up pay when you're talking. Okay, that might be a turnoff for some, but do you really care? Like, I wouldn't care. You got to feed your family and you have to do what you want. And there's a way to have that conversation. It's like, look, I'm not looking for this role just for the pay. However, I'd be amiss if I don't admit that pay is a deciding factor. We got to eat, right? And so I want to make sure that I'm compensated for the level of work that I'm going to give you. And so that we don't have to have these conversations in the future. And I think that, and if they frown upon you, that's a flag.
You probably don't want to work for that company anyways.
No,
but I love that.
You should be able to have that conversation and have it in a way to where you know what you're worth. And then not only have that conversation, put that conversation in writing. Email that back. Thank you for your offer. I appreciate it. However, I would like to discuss the compensation. My research has shown blah, 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 blah. My skill sets are here. Can we have a discussion about a starting rate of XYZ or a salary of XYZ? I feel like that's comparable. I feel like, it's in the middle. And if we can get through this, I'd be excited to work for you. It's all about the spin.
You dropping some nuggets. Y'all, I want y'all in the comments to ask for what you want.
I can talk about this for hours.
Ask for what you want.
I could talk about this for hours. It took a while. Like, I will ask for extra PTO. Sometimes people can't do that. But like, when the higher the role I was in, the more PTO I had. I'm not going to sacrifice a week of PTO if that's not your policy. This is what it's going to take for me. But be willing to stand firm if they say they can't. Then you have to ask yourself, what's the non-negotiables and what's the negotiables? And if they can't do that, don't ever accept it thinking that they will, and don't ever accept it on a verbal promise for the future.
Oh, that is important. And the reason I think this topic is important, we're talking mental health, is because we start to see this people in my office stressed out because they didn't negotiate PTO. Stressed out because they're not getting paid, and they know someone else beside them is getting paid more, and they're angry about it. So they come in with anger, frustration, anxiety.
That is on the questions that you had. That was one that I wanted to talk about too. Is that, you know, a lot of times I tell people, someone may tell you, oh, I make this amount, right? And people get all in arms. I've seen one or two things happen. Either they're lying that they don't make that amount. And I'm sitting here looking at them like, I can't tell you, but I'm telling you right now that
that's not true.
You might want to go back and have another conversation. Like, that's, everybody's paid, you know, whatever. That comes to my office probably more. So-and-so told me they're making this. And I'm like, oh, they did? Oh, okay, well.
It's not what their pay stub says.
I would take that with a grain of salt. That's what I say. I would take that with a grain of salt. Or someone else has come in and they may have a skill set that you don't possess. And a lot of times we get equity and equality mixed. You know, we get that a little confused. Someone can do the same role as I, right? As I perform, but they may not have the experience, or I may not have the experience. And if I don't have a certain skill set of experience, but my boss feels I could reach up to that, he may not pay me what he paid the person before, right? Now, I would be unrealistic if I say that discrimination and biases and those things don't exist. That happens. There are people out there that are paid less because they're a woman. There are people who are paid less because they're a person of color. There, you know, that happens. But I think we have to be prepared. How do I say it? Like, you can't expect like the business or the company to kind of come to you. You have to be willing to say, this is my line in the sand. And if I can't get this, then I walk. Or look at other things. Do you have flexibility? Do you have, because that means the world to me. You can pay me all the money I'm worth, but chain me to a desk, and then I can't be a mom and a wife, and I have to work. And I've had those roles where if the daycare called, I would be in the bathroom in tears because I didn't want to go talk to my boss and say, I have to leave again. You know, so I think, you know, learning what's truly of value and what's tangible and what's the intangibles, and sometimes the intangibles. I'm a very flexible boss. And I tell my people, I cannot pay you what I feel like you deserve. But I tell you what, I will never get in the way of you being a mom, or like, you need to go get your refrigerator. Okay, go home and get your. So I'm more worried about the quality of work you get, not the quantity of time. So if you have a leader that's willing to compromise that and flex with that, I promise you it's worth more weight in gold than what the salary may be. So look at those other perks as well, that may kind of offset what a salary may be.
No, this is good. Y'all share this, tag some people, even if they can't come on live, tag people, because a lot of people need to hear this.
Ask before you accept. And if they say no, then figure out if you can live with it. And if you can live with it now, so if you can live with it and you say you can live with it, then don't come to the company mad at them because of the decision that you made, right? Like that's what I see a lot. Like you're mad at the company, but you made the decision to accept the role at whatever rate.
And you said something. You said, "Don't come thinking that it's going to change in the future." And I see that across the board with relationships, with everything. And they're telling you, "This is where I am today."
If it is not in writing, listen to me. If it is not in writing, it did not happen.
Oh, I remember something similar. It wasn't with pay. It was with how much time I had to give them notice before leaving. And I remember the guy said, "Oh, I think he said a regular 2-week notice." And I went, that's strange, because almost every counseling position I've had always requires a much longer time than 2 weeks. But he said, "Oh yeah, don't worry about it. Just a regular 2 weeks." And then of course, when it was time to go, they were like, you have to give I forgot what number it was, but it was well over 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But so-and-so, and I went back through emails and I don't have that in writing. And I knew it was on me at that point. This is me. I have to stay here because I didn't do my due diligence to say, hey, this is what you said. I just want to follow up to make that was on me. And so
when I get those employees and I get those candidates, I'm like, oh, okay. and it perks my ears up to know. And I'll go back and tell a manager, like, let me tell you something. This person here, you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's because they're about their business. It's not that they're a problem, but they're about their business. And when you take the time to follow up in written communication, that lets me know that you're going to hold me accountable to the words that I say. Because unfortunately, there are people out there, and I'm looking at you, so I'm probably not looking at the camera.
No, you're good.
There are people out there that they don't always have the best intentions. And you have some managers that they just want to get a warm body. And you have some people that they hire you, and by the time you start, they're no longer there. So that word leaves with them. And so I always tell people, when you're in that first process, set the tone for your leader or your manager that I will communicate with you professionally and in writing so that they know. And sometimes they don't like it. So what? That's on them. And they might not respond, but you put it in writing that you did, you know. So
now you started talking. I'm sorry. You started talking about the second reason a lot of people come to HR because
conflict.
Let's talk about that. So
yes. So the conflict, I don't know how to say it nicely. I just know how to be direct. So I don't want to just pick on any specific demographics, right? But my people, we have a lot of I ain't gonna do. You ain't gonna tell me. It's facetious, and we understand that unspoken language, right? But sometimes that translates over into the workplace, and I'm like, oh, did you read that on your job description? Other duties as assigned? Oh no, I didn't see that. And I'm like, okay, number one, read your handbook, because a lot of the questions and a lot of the conflict that you have, you signed off that you understood it, and you're 100% in the wrong because your manager has told you to do something and you didn't get clarification, you didn't get clarity, and then you signed away on this that, hey, other duties is assigned, and anything less than that is insubordination, correct? So that's number one, is coming in with a lack of understanding of what you signed up for and what's expected of you versus like this mindset of like what I'm not going to do. And that's funny. Like, I love it. Like, I love that, but I see that a lot more. And then I see also gossip. And if there was one, hindsight is 2020, that I could take away with my younger self and that I could tell the other people, that I tell my children that are in the workforce now, stop venting to people. Don't vent. There isn't a single person at your job that is your friend. And I'm here to tell you that every last person that you think may be your friend will sell you out if need be. It is work. If you are blessed that you have friends, then that is extremely rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. That's like 2%. The other 98%, I know everything about everybody that I don't even want to know about, because people gossip. I know who's sleeping with who. I know who's trying to talk to who. I know whose husband is talking to who. I know so much stuff that I don't need to know, and I compartmentalize it and I don't listen. But I know, because the workplace, it's the launch pad of gossip. And so you're telling your business to someone, or you're venting about your boss, right? Or you get in group chats, which I don't understand why you would put anything in a group chat, but you can. That's protected. People know that that's protected. You can absolutely get in a group chat or get in the conference room and talk crap about your boss. However, that gets back. It gets back because everybody wants to be seen as like a favorite. You know, not everybody, but the majority. And so it's hey, please don't say I said anything. Can I tell you something in confidence? So I was talking to Jenny the other day, and she really didn't like the fact that you made her stay, and she was saying blah, 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 blah. And I was just telling her, like, well, maybe you want her to do it this way because of this way. No, you weren't. You were over there with Jenny talking about how you Susie, you know, like you guys were congregating together. But now I have Susie in my office, like, I want to fire Jenny because I can't work with her and she won't do anything I say and she's causing a disruption. It's things like that versus Jenny going to the boss and saying, listen, when you make these decisions, this is how it impacts me? Or can I get some clarification on why you might want me to do XYZ? I don't understand. Or I've been doing it this way and I understand you want me to change it. But the way my brain works, I need to understand the why. Have a few moments to discuss that with me. Like those types of soft skills versus y'all don't tell me anything and I can't stand this place and y'all get on my nerves and every time y'all turn around, y'all change and stuff. Like it's things like that where and not really understanding that managers, right or wrong, it comes downhill. So they have a responsibility to carry out directives that come down, and sometimes they explain and sometimes they don't, and sometimes they're good managers and sometimes they're not. But you can only worry about yourself, and you can't. And then the other part is it's always one employee that is a spokesperson for the entire department, right? And then the manager has this meeting and it's like, so I'm hearing that you all are upset. And everybody's sitting there like, who? I didn't say that.
Right.
And then that person ends up being, so it's cruel as it sounds. People can speak for themselves.
I heard you say a couple things. Number one, recognize the boundary with work relationships.
Draw it.
You need to vent, call your counselor, call your friend outside of the job, all of those things. I also heard you say, learn the soft skills, learn how to communicate and be assertive with what you need and what you want and your thoughts without being disrespectful, without being insubordinate, all of these
or
words.
Entitled is
entitled. Yes, that's a good one.
I see a lot of entitlement.
So again, I'm saying we're talking mental health. I see the same things. I work really by myself for the most part, but I hear these conversations from somebody who said, I talked to HR and I told them da 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 da, and they're talking to me, which I appreciate them talking to me rather than a coworker. But it's a lot of times I'm literally saying, let's talk about how you communicate that. Let's improve your communication. So I think learning these things, I hope y'all are listening, because she is giving y'all really, if you're listening, she even gave y'all scripts that you can go back. So
just do it like that.
She's giving so many gems here.
Game. It's a really big game. And a lot of times people don't want to play that game. And I'm not here for advocating to play it, right? But everybody has a way they want to be spoken to. Everybody has a way that they want to communicate. It's not a one size fit all for every manager, every leader. Some are just complete a-holes. Some are just poor representation of what a leader should look like, right? That is never going to change. But you have the responsibility. And I tell my employees that this is an employment relationship. It's twofold. I wouldn't go and speak to your partner about you. I don't necessarily want to go speak to your boss about you. I will, because that's what I'm supposed to do if I need to, but I want to give you the skills, because once I go talk to them, then the guard is up. You went and told HR on me. And the defensiveness happens, or the standoffishness happens, and then the trust is broken. So I think there's a responsibility to build some level of professional trust based on transactional trust. I give, you give, like this. But on the personal side, like really get to know people, get to know your coworkers, like make them earn your personal trust before you just say that we're friends, and make sure you have an established relationship with them before you start talking about something that is going to impact how you eat.
Now, you said something I have a question about. You said, I can show them how to say that. Is that the role of HR in some, when there's conflict?
I'm consulting all the
here's
time.
How you can do this.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I do a lot of that. Like I'll tell people, before you say something that you can't take back, rent it by me. Now, I can't say that every HR person is like that, but I'm very big on wanting people to have the right communication skills, because once you get it, then that's what's worked for me, right? So absolutely. Each one teach one. I'm going to teach you. I know your manager. I know how your manager communicates. So if it's a very difficult manager and I know they're difficult, I'm going to give you the advice on like, hey, stick to the tangible, stick to the facts. There's less emotion. Let's talk about what we know. Let's be objective versus I feel you don't like me. I don't think like they're going to dismiss that. But I do a lot of that. My team does a lot of that. And I would rather do that than to have the conversations where now someone's written up, now it's documented, now it's extremely formal. So I do a lot of that on the
No,
conflict.
that's good.
Yeah.
So if you're watching and you're struggling with conflict, that may be a path for you to use HR to be able to
Yeah.
go in and say, hey, I need to communicate something, but I'm not sure the best way, and seeing if you can get some help with that.
Yeah. But can I tie it back to you guys? Like you
Absolutely.
guys that are in the mental health field, as a human, just as a normal person, if I haven't worked on my communication style with my day to day, or how I handle conflict with my day to day with the people that I love, I am not going to be any better with the people that I don't know.
That's true.
So some of that is a responsibility on self to learn these tools on how you interact and move with people, because you never know. What does scripture say? You don't know when you're entertaining angel unaware. You don't know when you're in communication, or when you're in building a relationship and network with someone that you could work with on a project, or extracurriculars, or sorority, or other types of, and you have conflict there. You don't know who that person knows and how they can open a door or close a door for you. So you have to learn how to manage that conflict on a very personal level, because you can't just turn the light on and have it at work, but then not have it in your personal. So I always implore everyone to reach out to a professional, dig deep, figure out why you have certain triggers, figure out your whys, and
Yes.
then it makes you a better employee because you have coping skills. That's the other big thing. People don't have the coping skills. And so when they're told no, or they hear news they don't like, or they're expected to do something that doesn't feel comfortable to them in the moment because it goes against what they want to do or what they can do, then the coping skills cause the outbursts and the conflict. So it's a little on both. And I just encourage everyone to, like, here's EAP. You get
No, really.
4 free sessions. Like, I
are
strongly
EAPs.
recommend that you reach out to someone, because I'm seeing a trend that's a little bit outside of my purview here at work. I would strongly encourage that you utilize this. You don't have to, but I would encourage that you do, like those types of things. But if everybody worked on themselves personally, then you can self-regulate. Things don't bother you. You don't get triggered. And so you learn what's truly conflict and what's an annoyance. And most of the time it's an annoyance. It's not really conflict.
That's really good.
Yeah.
What are some things that you feel that people, or you wish people really understood it from an HR perspective? Like, again, you're seeing it and you go, from my perspective, I wish they knew this, or I wish they understood this.
So it's twofold. Some of it is, I'm on social media and I see things, and there is this mindset that HR is the enemy, right? We're not there for the employee. Like, don't go to HR. And I'm pretty sure that there's reasons for that, because for every reaction, for every action, there's a reaction, or however that goes. So I would be wrong to say that there probably are not. It's probably invalid to think that there have been bad HR experiences. For the most part, it's almost like we're teachers. This isn't a lucrative role. We're a cost center. We don't make the company money. We cost money, right? So we're not rolling in the dough either. Most of the times we do this because it's a calling, and because we truly understand that that employees are the biggest asset. You're impacting people's lives. I take problems home that you bring to me. I care about whether you have your lights on. I care about whether you make enough money to feed your children. I care about your troubled kid because the school keeps calling up here. I care about all of that. But I still have a role. I am to enforce policy. I am to make sure that the company keeps its checkbook in its back pocket, and we're not paying fines and settlements and things because we broke the law. And part of that means I have to sometimes be stoic and, like, matter of fact, and I have to hold you accountable to the policies that maybe you read, maybe you didn't, but I have to do that. And I have to be here for the company, and I also have to, as an employee, but I also have to be here for the business, right? And so that's a fine line. So I could care deeply for you as an employee, but if you keep coming to work late, I will absolutely be the person on the other end of the desk having to tell you that you don't have a job. And it's not because I don't like you. It's because your boss told you that your start time is 8 o'clock and you keep coming in at 8:45. And as much as they like you and your dogs and your kids, they still have a business to run. So I think that's the one thing that I wish that people understood about HR. And then the other part is that we do carry a lot of stress. I think COVID was probably the most stressful time, and I considered leaving the profession. People were going into hospitals and not coming out. Companies were downsizing. The world came to a complete halt for some industries. And there were conversations, and there are always conversations at a high level that I'm involved in. It's like, are we going to make this decision or not? And sometimes I have to literally sit in front of people and have a whole conversation, knowing that at the end of the day or the end of the week, that conversation is going to look differently. And you're going to hate me because I have to deliver news. I didn't make the decision, but I'm the person that's trained to mitigate the risk to, deliver that. And that's a lot. Contrary to popular belief, I do not like terminated employees. That is not fun. That is the worst part of my job. I hate that. And I always say I don't terminate employees. Employees terminate themselves, because I will fight for someone that does not deserve to be terminated. But it doesn't feel good to give someone that news that's going to impact them, their family, and their livelihood. So I think there's a misconception that we're cold and that we get off and like we enjoy delivering bad news and that we don't care. But it's kind of hard to care and then enforce at the same time, right?
So I hear two things. Number one, that accountability piece of I can care about you and still hold you accountable. And when you do that, people get it confused with not caring.
Yes. Or like you hear a lot of, well, I go talk to HR and they side with the manager. And I'm like, again, I'm going to go back to my worst nightmare is an employee that's got their paperwork. Like, it's not my worst nightmare. I just know that there's no I dotted and there's no T that's going to be uncrossed. It's like reading. The most powerful person is someone that reads. In the work world, the most powerful employee is he who documents. He who follows up.
I'll write that down.
And I don't mean like at 5:15, Ray J took a break and came back at 5. Like, I don't mean that type. I mean, hey, it was nice having a conversation with you today, but per our conversation, your expectations of me are this, this, and this. I said I was going to deliver this, and like, or if you are written up and that little it says employee comments, it's always empty. And I'm like, no, that is your opportunity to say, I need to pause. I need to think on this. I have some rebuttal. I have something to say. Don't care if they get mad. They get mad, they can get glad. But this is your livelihood and you have to protect it. But make sure when you're doing that you know your handbook, you know your job description, you know what's expected of you, you've done your part, and that you can stand on that you're in the right and they're not.
And I think something you said was important. Handling your own internal triggers is important because, again, if I'm saying, hey, they're not letting me off and I have all these children and I have all of these other responsibilities, that can seem really cold. It can seem insensitive. It can seem all of those things. But the reality is you knew you had those children when you said I could work from 9 to 5 or from whatever to whatever. And that can be a tricky role. And being able to really do some self work, building a support system, being able, like you said, manage all of that stuff is going to help when you're talking about that accountability piece, because you go, oh no, this is on me. It's my responsibility to show up on time. Even if I have 3 kids that all go to different schools, my responsibility is still to show up on time.
Because I promised it. I said I could.
Right.
So then it becomes, well, you're not honoring your word. And a lot of times I'll hear, well, they don't care anything about me. They know I got these kids. I hear that a lot. They know I have these dogs. They know I have my mama sick. They know that I have all these other things that are impacting me. And we might. Case in point, I had this conversation with one of my kids. And it was like one thing after another that seemed like she was going through. Like life was just hitting her. And I was like, you got to communicate with your boss. You have got to have that conversation. And they can like you to the day ends, honey, but they have a business to run. And like, unfortunately, does not pay the bills.
Right.
Like does not make payroll. Like does not get customers or whatever that looks like. And so you're going to have to pick and choose. Maybe this isn't the place for you with where you are in your life right now, or you're going to have to get up early, or you're going to have to, pay out of pocket for somebody to take care of this, whatever that looks like, to protect your investment of your 26 pay periods or 52 pay periods, 12 pay, however that looks, that's your investment and you have to protect it. Because
I like the way you said that, protect your investment of
your investment. Yeah.
those pay periods. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
What would you say are the common mental health issues that you see? And is there any allowance for, okay, this person struggles with anxiety or they're diagnosed with whatever? Are there allowances? So first, what are you seeing most commonly?
I see a lot of anxiety. I feel like everybody is struggling with that right now. I've seen it more post-COVID than pre-COVID. I've seen it generationally. So the millennials and the generation below them, honey, they are very, very vocal about their anxiety. They're very vocal and proud that they have like a mental health professional, a therapist or whatever. And they come in the gate. I have a therapy appointment. I have whatever we wanted for them, like they are walking advertisements of that. Right. So it's a little, so then I have like my Gen X and my boomers, like they're like, oh, you leave your work problems at home, whatever, you separate the two. And when you're at work, you're at work. And that's just not the way of our world anymore. Right.
So how is that generational difference?
It is so,
how does it clash? Because I think I see the same thing. We have younger generations are like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with. We are more in tune to the emotional side, and hey, this is what I'm struggling with. And I think there is more of an expectation of empathy and sympathy, where other generations are like, listen,
when I came up, no one cared.
I'm sorry if you're nervous about this.
I was back, I'm gonna need you to push that down and get this report.
So how does the work? How is the workplace it's navigating that?
It's really tricky because the youngins are holding us accountable. The youngins are saying, y'all gave us access to all of this as children. Now we are your co-workers and your subordinates, and you can't take that back. Like, you're gonna give me my time off. I'm gonna take my PTO. I can tell you, if I pull the report right now, my Gen Zs and my millennials, baby, they take their PTO. They will take their PTO. We are stacking it for a rainy day. No, they come in out the gate. I haven't even started yet. I have a trip to Cancun booked on this day. I'm willing to go without pay, but I am taking a work-life balance. Whereas my generation and above, we will work and die at work. And then family's mad because our job is posted the next day. Whereas the younger generations have seen us not be present because we work. And they're like, I want no parts of that. So it is a funny dichotomy trying to marry the two worlds. I don't know how it's a work in progress, because it's not difficult, but it's a little difficult. But the anxiety piece, I think I can speak from my personal experience. I have learned the older I got, the older that I've gotten, that a lot of the issues that I deal with was probably undiagnosed ADHD. In my childhood, you just didn't get diagnosed with that. You learn how to cope, and you learn tips and tricks on how to regulate that, right? And you overcompensate, and sometimes you overpromise, underdeliver, and you procrastinate. And I thought it was something with me until I started learning, like, oh no, this is what it is, and this is how it's shown up in my life. And it's not something wrong with me. It's something with my brain, and I need to do this or take this to be productive, to show up every day and not burn out, right? And I think having those conversations and professionals like you continuously putting the word out like, hey, 40-something-year-old woman, this is like not normal. Hey, 40-something-year-old man, this isn't normal. This doesn't mean you're a horrible employee or horrible parent or horrible. You're scattered. You're all over the place. Your brain is just firing off, all the time. And this is how we can help you regulate that. I think if we had more of that, less people would burn out. You'd probably see less folks lashing out, and people would truly understand work-life balance and not look at it as an ugly thing. Now to get to your second question, what's available? I want everybody to understand this. There are federal laws out there, Americans with Disabilities Act. That is not something you earn. That is there for you from the moment you want to apply for a job. If you need an accommodation, we have to provide that. But I can't provide it if I don't know it, right? So I need to know it. If you're pregnant, there's a new one, the Pregnant Fairness Workers Act. The Pregnancy Fairness Workers Act that just came out last year. And it's even more encompassing of like FMLA, or it has more accommodations and things for pregnant women. So it kind of erases all of that pregnancy discrimination. That's available. You have FMLA if you've worked for your company for a year or 12 months and 1,250 hours, so that you may have protected leave time that you could take in a block of 12 weeks or intermittently, we break that 12 weeks up into 480 hours and administer that. And there is protections from that, meaning I, as a company representative or manager, cannot penalize you for that. So if you need those accommodations, you need your workload adjusted, you need to be able to step away and take breaks, you need to be able to do whatever it is, that is available for you. And a lot of people don't know that, but it's like probably the first, second, third, at least first 10 pages of the handbook, because we have to put that out there. It's probably posted somewhere inconspicuously on a bulletin board in your break room. And you don't have to beg for that. You just go to HR and say, I have a condition that I think is covered by ADA, or I have a condition that I think will require accommodations. We give you paperwork. You take that to your doctor. Your doctor says you need this. We say we can. We say we can't, but that is the law, and every citizen that works in the United States has access to that, depending on the parameters surrounding that.
No, that is very important information. What I want people to know from the mental health side, most therapists do not want you to walk in their office saying, I need you to write me paperwork so I can take disability. The first time I'm meeting you and you're telling me to write you, sir, no, ma'am. What's your middle name? I need you. Like I've had people to come in and they're like, so I'm coming in so you could write off so I can get disability. And I'm like, I am literally just meeting you. I don't know anything about you. And then they'll get upset because they're saying, I'm so stressed. And then also, is this even an issue where you truly need disability? Because I don't know if you just need to learn some coping skills.
Absolutely.
I don't know if, and so I'll hear people finally get this information.
Yeah. And we need
this information. They're like, oh, I can go see a therapist, and they can tell them that I can come late, and they can tell them
you have to have,
I need disability or whatever.
No, and your provider has to do due diligence to diagnose you. Right.
Right. And that's what I want people to hear from our side.
No, you can't just, there isn't an expectation that you go and your nurse practitioner is going to sign off, or there's a lot of telehealth out there, but whatever it is, I can't get into like what can be diagnosed and what qualifies for diagnosis or not. But most people are like, and I've had people kick it back, saying this person's not a patient of mine yet. I can't diagnose this person yet. It's going to take more sessions, but then I still have to allow you to go to the doctor to get that done. Right. But yeah, we get a lot of folks that will just one time go to the doctor, and then we compete with the folks that just, do it ways that are not ethical. And you're only hurting yourself. You're not really, it's not there. The laws aren't there for you to get over on your employer. They're there for people who have genuine, legitimately struggle with disabilities that need accommodation, that need to work. Because Uncle Sam wants everybody working. He wants his just due, honey. He wants his taxes. So we're not going to bar you from working so that I can't get my taxes. So employers, you know, make these accommodations for your employees so they can work. And most people want to work. Most people do. I've had very few people who play the system and more people who truly struggle. And it makes my heart proud to see that they, through their struggles, that they still want to show up every day.
And that's what I see too. It's usually the people that are literally trying every way to stay and do their job effectively and professionally. I go, wait, let's look at this. You may need, these things. But then I have, like I said, I may have someone come in literally the first session. They're saying, I need you to write me some time off. And I'm going, I can't put myself, I'm not putting my name out there when I haven't done the work to know what's going on. And again, you do yourself a disservice by not engaging in that process. You said,
and it makes it hard for the folks that really do struggle. It makes it extremely difficult because it's frustrating sometimes to have to manage an employee with accommodations who mismanage that. It's extremely difficult to do that. And it causes you're causing anxiety for someone else because deliverables and expectations are still set for your boss and your manager, right? And you can be, I don't care about them. I just care about myself. Cool. That's fine. However, you're causing stress and anxiety to someone who has to pick up the pieces that you leave when you're truly just rigging the system. Like when you're not really, it's one thing when someone can't. I'll do anything for someone who can't. But then it causes conflict because you have these able-bodied people. And then they talk. This is the part I don't understand. They talk about it. They brag about it. So you have employees who are like, girl, all I did was go back and tell them that I got this and this and this, and my doctor wrote me, and ain't nothing they can say to me, and I can leave when I want to leave. And then the person who's there gets shifted to work. And now they're mad at you. And now they're gossiping. And then they're going to go back and tell the boss, well, she told me. And then they're going to call me. And then I'm going to call legal. And, it just gets...
It makes it complicated.
Like, what you doing? Please keep your mouth closed. Like, please don't brag about it. Like, don't tell people that's what you're doing. It's just... People talk. They tell your business.
Now, you mentioned the stress from having to know all the business. The stress from having to share negative news with people, knowing their situation sometimes, maybe not, but just all of that. How do you take care of yourself in this?
I'm probably still a work in progress, but I have a therapist.
Yay.
I have a standing appointment. I hope if she sees this, I don't know, she might be like, I didn't talk to you in a minute, but I have a therapist. That is something that that was hard for me to step into. Just kind of my background and how I kind of came up and how I grew up, just saying like, I want to talk to a therapist.
What made you finally say it's okay for me to get a therapist?
Well, during COVID, probably a little bit before COVID, after I lost my father and that whole transition, I struggled really, really deeply in a very dark places with my mental health, right? And I'm never afraid to share that because if my story helps anyone, then like it's sometimes really hard being a working wife and a mom and a good employee. So I'm dropping balls somewhere I'm failing, and having to have that hit you at a point where it's like I'm everybody's unhappy around me. And taking that ownership of that. Like I went through a really dark period where I struggled if I even wanted to exist on this planet, right? And I knew that was not how I wanted my story to end. I did not want to traumatize my kids. I just had all these reasons why. And so it was like, I've got to talk to a professional. I've got to figure out why I can't work. The gym doesn't help. Like what is it? And it just ended up being me really needed to dig deep and do a lot of healing and self-reflection. And some of it was, maybe I need external sources to help regulate my moods and things like that. So I could show up as my best self, but I wasn't able to show up as someone that I was proud to show up. And I did not have a lot of good days, and my bad days were impacting me professionally. And I had a really good work friend that stopped me and was like, you need to talk to someone. And so I stepped out and I got a therapist, and that was probably, I wish I had done it sooner. Like, I wish I had done it 20 years ago. I wish I'd just broken the stigma and having a person. So when you guys think that, like, oh, I don't need a therapist, I don't need to talk to anyone, what are they going to do? I have my friends. Your friends aren't equipped to help you. They aren't equipped to pick up on things that you may be diagnosed with, those types of things. So therapists, I have a really good tribe, my sorority sisters I have really close relationships with, my kids. And then I have just learned to put me first. I have learned to listen and become in tune with my body and understand that I don't always have to be in motion, that I can rest. And so I have learned to rest. And that is, resting is me coping and taking care of myself, or just putting me first and learning how to let that guilt go.
So I'm so glad you said that, because the reason I do the show is for a couple of reasons. Number one, to tear down that stigma, to bring awareness, just to, like, all of the stuff that you talked about today. I was like, people need this information. So I wanted to bring awareness. I wanted to tear down the stigma, but I also want to show people that people who we would consider are highly successful, educated, beautiful, has a beautiful family, all of these things that look wonderful, and they are, we all need help.
Oh, we do.
And so I wanted to also be able to bring people in and say, look at this very successful person.
Because honey, I was about to be a hashtag on Facebook.
Like, and I'm so glad you're not. If we hashtagging you, it's going to be a Black Girls Rock.
It's overwhelming. Sometimes it is overwhelming being something to everyone. So I unapologetically, my family knows. I pull in the garage, don't come talk to me. Do not. Let me sit there and I mindlessly scroll through TikTok and I decompress and I fill my brain with insignificant things because it is so full of significant things. So I have to, like, be unapologetic with my decompression. And then I come in the house and then, what happened to you? And I can listen to all of their drama and fix their problems. But being a fixer all day is exhausting. And if you don't recognize it, you will burn out. And the burn is overwhelming.
Yeah. My husband will come open the garage sometimes if I'm in the car, and I was like, yep, hey. And I work from home.
My food, like, I'm eating. I'm like, sometimes I say the parking garage at my work because, like, I know I'm not going to get interrupted, but I've got to decompress. I've got to be funny. I've got to laugh at something. I get involved in rap beef and Real Housewives. Like, I get involved in the insignificant drama of stuff just to rid my mind of the seriousness of everything that I see 40, 50, 60 hours a week.
And I say that often when I'm watching movies. It's rare that I want to watch something deep.
I don't.
I say, make me laugh. Because I've heard enough deep stuff all day. I don't want that. But those are the things, again, I want people to see. You can be successful by whatever standard you define as success, but you can be successful and still you're going to need to take care of yourself and do certain things, set boundaries, be assertive, being able to meet your physical needs and taking care of your physical needs. Like, all of those things are still very important for us to really
sit
be
down. Women,
sit
still, outsource. Honey, it's okay if someone does your laundry. It's okay. You don't have to wait. I'm talking to myself because I haven't done this yet. You don't have to wait to have your house spotless before you invite someone to help you. Like, I'm this year, I said I'm going to learn how to outsource a little bit more so that I could be present and not feel guilty because there are dishes in the dishwasher and because my laundry room looks like, or I'm gonna put myself out there. I have bought towels. I have walked in my house and looked at my laundry room and, like, not today, and went straight over to Walmart. The $2.88 towels so that I'll deal with it Friday. Like, but today, nobody, it's not gonna get done today. Like, and that's okay.
It is more than okay to say, you know what, it really, and it is a form of self-care by saying, hey, I can't fix all the problems in the world. I can't even fix all the problems in this house, but we can we can have clean towels.
You don't have to clean towels, but what Mama's not fixing to do, I'm not going to stay up tonight and wash and dry those towels. I need some sleep. I'm tired, So little things like that. That's how I reset.
any closing words? You have been amazing. I can't even wait
No,
to
thank you for
finish.
having
And
me. I just want anybody to hear this. Like, your employment relationship is just as important as your personal relationships. You spend 80% of your time with your coworkers, with your bosses, and you have to nurture and water that relationship. It's not just transactional. You have to put something into it. And the moment it doesn't serve you, exit stage left. When a job is not for you, it is okay. Leave. Just leave and find somewhere that pours into you, because not every place is going to pour into you, and that is okay. Just 10 years, you don't have to do all that anymore. Go find somewhere that waters you.
I love it.
Thank
You so much.
Thank
you so much. Like I said, I
Thank you,
can't wait for this
everyone.
to be where I'm able to go back. I'm going to share this to all
Oh,
these different
absolutely.
groups.
But thank you so much
Listen,
for having me. Thank you.
you brought some really, really good information. And so I if people listen, I already know they really can grow from this. So
I'm just seeing the comments. Oh, can I read these later?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
I'm gonna send it or tag you so it'll be on your page or whatever. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I want you to check in with me in about 3 months and see if you hired those people you were gonna outsource.
I will. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.